So this is a pondering. I am still digesting this past week's retreat. And what keeps coming back to me is a few things. First, the paragraph at the end of the Chenrezig sadhana that Venerable Jampa read about how to hold Chenrezig in our minds between the sessions. Venerable Chuni's gentle reminder to stay in the retreat mind between the break times, and Venerable Samten's review of chapter 6 about how to structure meditation session. These are all contributing to this deeper understanding of how I want to, something clicked from all of these parts in the past week that I want to somehow deepen and open my perspective on how the time between our meditation sessions is Dharma, how I can deepen that. I want to resolve this larger issue that I experience, that a lot of the times there's still a disconnect after all the years of being here of what I do on the cushion and my sense of my practice there, and then how I move into the times between the sessions here, and there's still a disconnect. So, and I've heard this from, a number of people over the years, either in community here or on our Zooms or at our meditation classes or during retreat group discussions, this disconnect, this discordance. And so I've heard there's kind of this long spectrum of where people fit on this, how meditation practice and practice off the cushion, how they interconnect. On one end are people that, and I've heard this, not as many as the other side of the spectrum, that they have extremely cooperative conditions for meditative practice. They do hours a day. That's just the way that their life, they're disciplined, they're consistent. And if they don't meditate every day a few hours, they feel that they're somehow failing, that they're not practicing the Dharma, that there's a little bit of a pressure, a little bit of a self-criticism sometimes if they miss a session, if they keep it short. And then life off the cushion, they've got somewhat of a mixed feeling about it. They're happiest when they're on the cushion, not so happy when they're off of it, and there's sometimes a judgment there. So that's on one extreme of the spectrum where folks really love meditative practice and listening to teachings, but life, the rest of the time, seems to be somewhat of a mixed bag. Then on the other end of the spectrum are the folks whose lives are so busy that cushion time is so rare, and that when they do practice, it's like in fits and starts without any kind of consistency. I've heard folks in the past, our friends around, that say they do their practice while they're driving to work, they do their practice while they're jogging, they do their practice while they're on the computer, they're doing it while they're putting their kids to bed. And that's pretty much the practice, which is wonderful because they're doing the best they can. But when it comes to trying to address these deeper, more emotional habits and relationships that they've never been able to resolve, they haven't had the time to get deep enough to be able to get down into the deep side of their practice. And things haven't been able to move. We have a very dear friend that we've known for years, just to say, my practice isn't going anywhere. And when I would ask her what she would be doing, she wasn't really spending any time practicing. So, and she was frustrated, but yet for her to be able to shift her priorities was almost impossible for her to do. So I think most of us fall somewhere in between these two on the spectrum. And some or another along the spectrum, there's a disconnect between formal meditation practice and the break time. And this is where I believe, at least for me, I still have a lot of work to keep my practice and the break time like a stream going together in the same direction with some continuity, so there isn't such a split. And this happens here at the Abbey when sometimes I rush into the meditation hall last minute, sit down there and spend half the meditation just getting myself in the hall. Other times I get there a little bit early, I've done a little bit of practice off the cushion, I feel a little bit more settled, and I'm ready to go. I mean, things do happen around here. Sometimes that's the way it is. But what I want to do, and it still evades me, eludes me in a really deep level, is I want what I do on the cushion to have impact on what I do in the kitchen, and vice versa. And sometimes it's just not in my mind, or in the garden, or on Zoom, or when I'm feeding Maitri. The cushion work is someplace else. So I know that motivation is everything, but the practice of remembering it is a process of familiarization and habituating our minds and to be mindful. And that's harder than it sounds. Or to remember that when I meditated in the morning, I meditated on death and impermanence, and then I get upset when things don't go as I planned. Just like, Semke, 45 minutes ago, you just did a lam-rim meditation impermanence, and you're getting upset because things are not going today the way that you had hoped. So this concept that our life is a stream, if we train our minds to see it that way, I think is extremely empowering. That anything that we do can be an outward expression of what we practice on the cushion. I mean, we've been hearing this for years, but I see that I want to make a turn. And this retreat, and what we've been doing here at the Abbey for the past few months with the reviews and the teachings and living together, is bringing me to want to deepen my understanding of how they are very much a stream. So then in chapter 6 for Venerable Samten, the beautiful chapter that she reviewed the other night, she really did unpack some of it there, is that it's very clear and practical. And I want to list some of the little pieces in there that I find are helpful in this, wanting me to commit myself to making this stream stronger, clear, and more continuous. So there's a sentence here that says, the great masters call our daily life activity break time between the meditation sessions. When I think about this is an extremely profound statement. We are never out of our meditation sessions. These are as well meditation sessions. Both play a role in our spiritual life. Meditation sessions give us the opportunity to practice in a more focused way. Daily activities provide us the chance to test how well we've integrated the meditation topics into our lives. So this is like where the rubber meets the road. Okay, so we've got either a lam-rim topic in the hall, or just thinking about the far-reaching practices, or a sadhana practice with visualization or purification. All of these things can be fuel to ignite the Dharma in our hearts during the day. Needless to say, at least for me, there are a lot of matches that show up in my life during the day, and whether I want to use them to fuel the warming heart of the Dharma, or if I want to use those matches to fuel my afflictions, there's this segue here that I haven't quite figured out. So it depends on how much we hold what we've done on the cushion with what we do off the cushion, and how interconnected they are, and how our motivation is the thread. So on more into that chapter, His Holiness says, observing the thoughts and emotions that arise in our minds during the day will give us an idea of the qualities we need to strengthen in order to counteract the afflictions that arise frequently in our minds. Now, the best place to do this is to figure out what our strengths are, is on the cushion until, at least my experience, if I'm a little bit more habituated to a virtuous state of mind, the qualities I want to develop, if they're a little bit more habituated, I can sometimes do it on the fly when I'm off the cushion. Or I personally find that if I make a concerted effort to just pause, take a breath, check in with myself, am I going to use this as an opportunity to create virtue or to refrain from non-virtue? If I don't pause, sometimes that opportunity is lost and I go someplace else. If the day gets ahead of me, or I feel like I'm playing catch up all day, I don't have the wherewithal to check in until there's a problem, until affliction is running my mind, and then I have to sit down and just gather myself. So these aspects of mindfulness and introspective awareness and conscientiousness, as well as Venerable Jigme says a lot, is just checking in with the body. What's going on? But if I don't give myself the time about that and have the wherewithal, they're not connecting. And His Holiness says we can practice anywhere and at any time. What we do during the break time between meditation sessions influences our meditation sessions. Now, I find that to be, and what we do in our meditation sessions, I would love to have influence more the break time between sessions. And this is where I think I come up short. I don't know about anybody else. Because I say, have you ever noticed that, I bring my offering service to the cushion, I bring my challenges and relationships with community members, I bring the news onto the cushion, and then I spend a lot of time just trying to calm down and figure out, well, what the heck was that about? So there's a lot of ruminating on the cushion if I don't have the connect there. Or how often, but on the other side, how often do I take my practice, what I purified that morning, the power of resolve or the promise to remember what I refrained from? Not so easy. I'd say because I think the 8 worldly concerns are a huge default. The happiness and the appearance of just this life is a lot of the default. So I would love to have my practice come into my offering service and my time with the community off the cushion as strongly as it does when I have all the stuff that goes on in my life during the day and I bring it to the cushion to resolve using Dharma. So they're not equal right now. So it behooves us to direct the streams so they convert. I believe this takes a lot of effort, at least for me. Doing this, His Holiness says, makes it easier to return to the experience of these topics in meditation sessions, rather than getting on the cushion and go, okay, what did I think about this morning? What was the motivation that, let's see, Venerable Pema led the motivation. What did she say? I'm like, she had this beautiful motivation about the spiritual friend, right? The letter to the king. I remember that. But, I'm just, there's parts that are missing. So I have to go back in the evening and kind of revisit, well, what did you bring into your life that day? What in the morning practice did you bring? And sometimes it's just hit or miss. And so His Holiness says, okay, be mindful of your precepts and your ethical values. That's a good place to start. Apply introspective awareness to monitor if you're living according to them. So chances are, if anything, just to remember the precepts that we've taken. And one thing from meditation to remember through the break times. Because I really believe that there's a good chance that we will see more of a continuity in our practice life as a stream, rather than for me a whole bunch of puddles. There's a puddle over there of Dharma, there's a puddle over there of Dharma, but they're not really connected. So that's my commitment right now. It's not even the beginning of the year, but that's my commitment. I want to get this idea of that the break time is much a meditation session as it is when we're on the cushion.